So as I was saying, there is no such thing as a woman in the truth. All right. You know, for brothers that have women that are so-called in the truth, if you really want to know if she's in the truth and she's really about you, then tell her to bring you another woman. Tell her to bring you a concubine, because that's the quality trait of a real woman. All right, such as the example that I read here. You know, Sarah bringing her handmaid to her husband. You know, which is looked down upon in this society as of now. You know, for now, because as we see when things are already tough now, and they're only going to get tougher, and things are going to get more tighter as we see, if you're paying attention, you know, because a lot of these women, or a handful of these women, because a lot of these women, they're not going to get it until it's too late. But there are some of those out there that, you know, the Lord is little by little, they're, you know, starting to see. The Lord is putting a spirit on to where they can see, you know, and the whole idea of polygamy is not looking like such a bad idea, you know. But yeah, you want to know if your woman is really in the truth. If you have a woman that's you know, she calls herself being in the truth, a so-called sister, then tell her to bring your wife. You know, hell, you shouldn't really have to tell her anything. If she's really about the truth, and her truth is you. All right, you are her truth. So if she's really about you, then you wouldn't have to say anything. You know, she'd be bringing you women regardless. You know, like I said, man. You know, that's as far as a concubine, that's more so a helpmeet for her. Because again, the whole polygamy thing and men dealing with multiple women, you got it all wrong. As far as the concept, you think it's just about having sex with all these women, when that's just something that comes along with it. All right, but really the whole thing when it comes to the whole concept of men having multiple women is really for nation building, you know, and that's what it's really about, you know. And I make this point all the time because you women, if you had any sense, any logic, any type of reasoning within yourselves, you would understand that it would benefit you more than a man, you know. But I'm gonna grab another one. Because there is nothing wrong with having multiple women in general for a man, as long as those women aren't, you know, currently dealing with a man, you know, because that's what adultery is, you know. Because again, you got this whole you got these guys, man, these camps twisting up the doctrine concerning what adultery is, you know. A lot of these guys, they talk about the law, but there's laws on dealing with having multiple wives, you know. But nevertheless, I'm gonna go to this in Genesis 30. As a matter of fact, I'll grab this. I'm gonna play this clip. Let's check this out.
Something kind of wild.
You didn't have to raise your hand.
If I were, okay, well, I
like that, though. Being obedient is awesome. Oh my God, that is a trait. What you just did is a trait that certain communities would kill for it. Like, I said you're obedient, and you didn't say, oh, I didn't know obedient. And you were just like, you went in there.
That's my thing. I'm trad wife till I die.
So you see, man, you know, again, and what man in his right mind wouldn't turn down a woman that, you know, because listen, we're not going to have any Sarahs on the side. We know that. We understand that. You know, and that's why, like I said, why wouldn't you want to have something that's conducive? Why not get you something that's conducive for you in your environment? Eve especially Keisha, the so-called black woman, she's just not conducive for the Israelite man on this side. All right. You know, and you got a lot of Jakes, man. It's almost like a mental illness, you know. Another factor, Jake has low self-esteem, you know, dealing with these Keishas. All right. These toxic females, or like the elder Amawan Gabar says, these females. All right. You know, it's a sort of a mental disease, man, that Jake has. You know, that's why I said, what man in his right mind wouldn't want to, you know, a woman that, you know, because at the end of the day, it's just about the sincere effort, you know. That's why I said we're not going to find any cereals on the side. But for a woman that's damn trying, you know, putting her best foot forward, because that's how we are with the Lord. He just wants a sincere effort with us, you know, because when you look at it, Yahweh Shmuel Shai, he's in a polygamous relationship, you know, specifically with the 144,000 men, you know, because we are his woman. We are his bride. You know, the Lord is in a polygamous relationship. The Lord has 144,000 wives, you know, so look at it like that, you know. But yeah, what man in his right mind wouldn't want, you know, some sort of obedience, you know, that type of a pillar, which that's what a woman she's supposed to be. Again, she's supposed to be a helpmeet, because it is about compatibility, not it's, you know, not a damn competition, you know. And a lot of you women, talking specifically about your Israelite women, you're just too damn combative, you know, versus the women of these other nations, man. They're for the most part. That's why I always say, and I tell brothers, man, and I stand on it, you know. I stand on it to this day. Don't get me wrong, because Eve is bad as hell, as far as her looks. Well, hell, her attitude as well, you know. And that's the problem. She has a bad attitude as well, you know. And again, man, because there ain't no woman like the Israelite woman. But as of right now, the mindset that the Israelite woman has right now, it's just not conducive for a man, and, you know, all that a man has to deal with in this environment. That's why, get you something that's conducive. You know, this is just advice, you know. At the end of the day, you know, you know, men are gonna do what they want to do. But like the apostles be saying, you want to deal with Keisha, when she turns around and you know, does something, man, breaks your heart or whatever the case may be, don't come to brothers seeking counsel, man. You know, because we told you, you know, brothers told you, the elders, they told you. I used to wonder why, man. The apostles, man, brothers be getting on the black woman so hard, and I get it. I wholeheartedly understand, man. You know, and like I said, I'm standing on what I believe in, my principles, you know. Now, unless Eve, I forgot who I was talking to about this the other day. Because we're in a time where the so-called black woman, man, she's been getting over time, she's been getting hella nice. You know, she puts on the appearance of being shamefaced, right? She's been hella nice lately. You know, you know, because she knows she's through, man. You know, and she's trying to win them. She's trying to win the Israelite man back over. But I mean, at this point, fortunately, unfortunately, you know, the majority of them are just going to have to perish on the side, you know. You know, but yeah, man, get you something that's going to work for you, and, you know, as far as the environment that you're in. All right, because I was making the point, for the most part, a lot of the women of these other nations, they're taught how to take care of a man, how to deal with a man. All right, this is why, again, the women of these other nations, they flock to the Israelite man. You know, because something like this here, I'm gonna play it again. I'll play this clip again.
See something kind of wild.
You didn't have to raise your hand.
If I were, okay, well, I
like that, though. Being obedient is awesome. Oh my God, that is a trait. What you just did is a trait that certain communities would kill for it. Like, I said you're obedient, and you didn't say, oh, I ain't no obedient. and you were just like, you went in there.
That's my thing. I'm trad wife till I.
So you see, man, and again, a lot of the women of other nations, they're bred for this type of behavior, how to conduct themselves for men. They're bred for men, because that's what a woman. Again, we can't reiterate it enough. All right, a woman's purpose, what her purpose is to be with a man, one man. All right, not many. All right, and that's why you got to make the distinguish between polygamy and polygamy. All right, because polygamy is pretty much, if I'm not mistaken, I'll probably fact check this after I do this video, but polygamy is the man having dealing with multiple women, likewise the woman dealing with multiple men, but polygyny or polygyny, Slovakia. Matter of fact, let me just look this up real quick. Bear with me. All right, so let me look this up. So this is polygamy. As soon as this loads up, bear with me. So yeah, polygamy. It says the practice or custom of having more than one wife or husband at the same time. All right. So that's why, like I said, there's a difference, But when you look up polygamy or polygyny, I just looked up polygamy is the man having dealing with multiple women, as well as the woman dealing with multiple men. I think I spelled this wrong. Or maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Bear with me. Let me try this. Because again, this is a real touchy subject, to the point, even Israelite camps, because a lot of these camps, they're nothing but they bring that world-friendly doctrine into the truth, and being that, the scriptures talk about silly women, Yeah, so polygyny. So yeah, because there is a difference between polygamy and polygyny. So that's why I make the distinction. All right. But let me grab this real quick. Because of course you have a lot of women in these other Israelite groups, you know, and if these so-called leaders were pushing, if they were pushing the actual truth, 100% truth, a lot of these women, man, they you know, well, basically a lot of these congregations, these Israelite groups, they will lose numbers, which mean they will lose money, because that's all it is for a lot of these camps, man. It's nothing but a money grab, you know, because to be legally married to multiple women in this society, it's illegal. So, you know, it only makes sense why these Israelite camps, they teach against it. Men having multiple wives, you know. You got IUIC talking about Isaiah 4:1 is going to take place in the kingdom, which it just doesn't make sense. You know, when you look at it according to the spirit, none of it makes sense, because our women are not going to have to work in the kingdom or anything like that. You know, again, in the kingdom, our women, they're going to be in their right mind. You know, hey, a lot of women, majority of these women, they complain about Isaiah 4:1, and you know, because you have a lot of women, or you have women out there that they believe the truth, but when it comes to that Isaiah 4:1 topic, man, that demon comes out. You know, a lot of women are going to get destroyed just off of Isaiah 4:1. They can believe everything else about the doctrine, 99.9% of the doctrine, but when it comes to that 1%, when it comes to that Isaiah 4:1, a lot of women are going to end up being destroyed just because of that. You know, but in the kingdom, Eve is going to be in her right mind. She's going to be looking back like, damn, I can't believe I was tripping. You know, bringing wives and concubines to her husband in the kingdom. And hell, even on this side, you know, even on this side, believe it or not, I believe that, you know. But 2 Timothy 3:6, for of this sort are they which creep into houses and lead captive silly women laden with sins, led away with diverse lusts. So you see, because, you know, being that women, like I said, if you had any sense, you know, if you thought with any type of logic, any type of actual reasoning, the whole having multiple wives, you know, a lot of you women are miserable most of the time, you know, and I'm talking about, you know, because, you know, you women get bored, man, and this is why you need, you know, you need extra help around the house. You need company. See, men can be by themselves, but you women, you need company, you know. That's why, again, the whole concept of a sister wives, you know, like I said, if you look at it logically, it'll benefit you. It'll benefit the woman more than the man, you know, because a man can be by himself. You know, a man, for the most part, can deal in solitary. You know, he can just be by himself, peace and quiet. But women, you know, your mind starts going everywhere. You get bored, start getting anxious, anxiety. You know, you need that company. You see why Eve, man, she's always on the phone with her girlfriends and this and that. And it's just like, why can't you bring them to the house? Why can't you bring them to your man? You know, I mean, I can go on in depth about it, but you know, just for time's sake, I'm gonna grab this. Where was I gonna go? Genesis 30:1. And when Rachel saw that she bare Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister and said unto Jacob, give me children, or else I die. And Jacob's anger was kindled against Rachel, and he said, am I in God's stead, who have withheld from thee the fruit of the womb? And she said, behold my maid Bilhah, go in unto her, and she shall bear upon my knees, that I may also have children by her. So you see, because again, being that Israelite women had handmaids, you know, and if those handmaids, instances like this, what I read with Sarah, where the handmaid was given unto the husband, by default, those children will be like in this instant, Rachel is giving her handmaid, Bilhah, unto her husband Jacob to bear children. And by default, those children will belong to Rachel. All right, being that, that's her handmaid. So by default, those children belong to her. When you read on, matter of fact, verse 4, and she gave him Bilhah, her handmaid, to wife, and Jacob went in unto her. So you see, man, because again, this is a part of the purposes of concubines is to be an helpmate to the helpmate. All right. Now, of course, Eve is not going to have that problem in the kingdom. She's going to be fruitful. All right. But hey, in the kingdom, in the king's domicile, all right, in our environment, hey, it's going to be our time to play. I say this all the time because, these people, they've been able to have their way. Esau, he's been able to have their way. The nations, they've been able to have their way. You women, you've been able to have your way. You've been able to have your fun. All right. And it's like, God damn it, when can we have our fun? As an Israelite man, when is it our turn? Or rather, why is it a problem when, why is it a problem now that we're coming back into our power? Why is that a problem? But hey, in our domicile, in the king's domicile, in our natural habitat, hey, we're gonna have whatever the hell we want, and that includes concubines. And again, you women are going to be bringing other women and concubines to your husband, believe it or not. Because again, an Israelite woman, she's not going to have a problem bearing children. All right, hey, like I said, you women, you're going to get your status back of being princesses. Hey, but hey, we're going to have our godlike status back, man. And I'll say little G, all right, because ain't no big G over little, ain't no big G, no little G's over here. These guys from Genesis, talking about big G's, no little G's. Nah, man, we're little G's, all right. But nevertheless, we're gonna have our God status back, man. We're gonna get our rise back, all right. And that's another purpose of men having multiple women, because hey, a woman is, she's not supposed to be getting popped every day, And men have that drive, that high sex drive. All right. Especially brothers, getting into the herbs and things of that nature. Hey, brothers, brothers testosterone be high as hell. One woman is not enough, man. Hey, the 2/3, they got to come back, and the 2/3 got to come back. Put it like this, and not so many words. There's going to be a whole lot of sex in the kingdom. All right. And the nation of Israel is not going to, the 2/3 are not going to come back off of just a man having one woman. The first commandment given to man was to be fruitful and to multiply. That's not going to come by way of just having one woman. All right. Because the nation of Israel is just going to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. And that's not going to come by way of one woman. So that's one of the other purposes of a man having multiple women. All right, because hey, you woman, you're gonna need that rest. You might get enough rod just to last you a year. Because like I said, when Jake get their status back, boy, Jake get them new bodies. Because your woman gonna have a form of spiritual power as well to be able to even deal with an Israelite man when we get our status back. Like I said, hey, we're gonna get our rods back. Right now we're under the curses, but hey, you might get enough rod. You might get rod to last you the rest of the year. Well, hey, that's cool, because hey, brothers are gonna have their options. You women, you're still gonna be in your cycle in the kingdom. All right, that hey, this is why men are gonna have options. Men are gonna have multiple wives, man, and concubines. All right, just for the fun of it. Jumping down. Jumping down to verse 9. When Leah saw that she had left bearing, she took Zilpah, her maid, and gave her Jacob to wife. And Zilpah, Leah's maid, bare Jacob a son. So the point being that, because like I used the examples in the first part, King David, all right, having concubines, having children by those concubines. Judah having children by the concubine. All right. Some of the 12 tribes stem from heathen women. You know. You see, because we are what our father is. So there's no such thing as a mix, having, mixed children, There's no such thing as that. All right. But nevertheless, you're showing the point that, hey, there's nothing wrong with dealing with concubines, man. And again, you got to get what's conducive for you, what works for you. For some brothers, a Keisha, or Eve in general, because I say this all the time, even when it comes to the Northern Kingdom, they ain't nothing but a nigga woman with an accent, And that's why, because I was making a point earlier, Eve comes to me, man. She's, unless she really makes it obvious and, she because don't be afraid to vex these women to you, hopefully, like brothers, man. Don't, you gotta learn, you gotta set the standard, all right? Set the standard for yourself, man. Don't sell yourself short, The ball is in your court, all right? We don't owe these women a damn thing, all right? But you see, talking like that, you can't talk to Eve like that. But hey, these other nations, the women of these other nations, they'll fall in line real quick, and that's the point. They'll fall in line real quick. Like I said before, hey, Eve, she's gonna be in her right mind in the kingdom. The so-called black woman, she's gonna get her status back. She's gonna be beautiful, man. She's gonna be perfect. She's gonna be sought out for more than any other woman, I believe, as far as the so-called black woman. But that's in the kingdom. As for right now, hey, the women of the other nations, man, hey, they don't mind getting in order. They don't mind, they lust for Jake, man. And why not go where you want it? Why not go where you are wanted? Because Eve ain't fucking with us right now, and that's all right. But there's nothing wrong with having, heathen women, man, getting you some concubines. That's something I've been telling brothers since day one. You better get you a white woman. All right. But I've talked enough. Lord willing, this was edifying. Giving all praises to Yahweh Shai. Shalom to you, hopefully, elect.